We're back. Part two, folks. We're going to talk economic development, the accommodations tax to start. And I'd like to segue into Municipal Development Corporation because I think a lot of people were confused when we were talking about those two elements. Anything new on the 4% tax that you're not going to do?
Well, actually, there is a little bit new. So, feedback continues to come in and fine. And that's good. That's what we want. So I shouldn't say fine. I'm saying that's great. Like that's the process. So, we don't have any of the online results yet. So please, if people are watching any of this stuff and you want to have a say either way, my hope is that you'll go and at least give survey information. So you can go to Engage Norfolk, just Google it, and you can do a survey about it. So I just wanted to put that in there because I don't think I ever mentioned that before, and I should. But anyways, so
What's the survey about? What is it? It's Engage Norfolk. Is it specifically to this accommodation tax?
all three. There's an accommodation tax, there's an industrial land, and then there's a corporation, I believe.
And it's open to all citizens, correct?
That's right. Yeah. So resident feedback is valuable for sure. In this particular case, the resident feedback is good to sort of test or get a sense of the temperature or whatever. But what the real focus here is do these accommodations want to implement it, and because it's up to them to actually do the work. So I wouldn't say that we don't care about the residents' opinion. We do. But that opinion isn't going to be about whether we do it or not. That opinion is going to be what people think of it and how much do we have to do to make this make sense with people. So what I'm saying is if all of the accommodations or most of the accommodations in Norfolk want to do it and then all the residents say no, like it's an economic development strategy, you know what I'm saying, or an economic development.
Do you have to do it? Let's say it did pass and I owned accommodations. I'm like, I'm not doing that. Do I have to do it?
We would be a bylaw, so yeah, it would be like HST.
So why can't you structure it differently so that it's an option?
Well, because it's a legal thing. It's not like we're making it up. It's there's parameters in the municipal act that say this is how you do it. So
right, but I think there should be an opt-out clause. If I don't want to do it, just because let's say the vote's 51-49, and I'm one of the 49 to say I don't want it.
Sure.
What the hell, man? I don't want to do this. I don't want to push customers away again. Like, but why can't it be that way? Why can't you let the ones that want to do it?
Because that's not how democracy works, Dave.
Sure it is. That is democracy at its finest.
Once the vote happens, you end in democracy. You elect people to make the decision.
That's true. You go by the majority. But at the same time, I just don't think this is something that, my feelings on it. I feel like it's a waste of time.
No, fair enough. I guess all I would say is it's the same as the HST. You can't just decide I don't want.
Right. Well, that's
HST, so I'm not going to charge you.
Again, they didn't ask businesses if they wanted that or not. That's what I'm saying.
So you can't just say, "Oh, I don't agree with it, so I'm not going to do it." Like that's not how it works. But anyways, whatever. So I get what you're saying. People should have an opt-in and opt-out. Whatever. I guess. And in a perfect world, they would. But that's not how anything works. We can't say, "Here's the tax increase. I don't agree with it."
Here's another scenario. Here's another scenario.
Okay. Well, you don't really want the update then. You just want to tell me what's bad.
I just want to badger you.
That's all right.
So what, it's a free enterprise in a lot of these cases. And, I was somewhere recently and the guy said to me, just give me cash. Are you going to create a black market? Are you going to create a market that just is unseen?
Maybe.
Okay.
But but I would say this, like we don't make any decision. Nobody makes, I shouldn't say nobody, but we don't make decisions at council based on if we do this, people will break the law. Like that's not how you make decisions, right? Like we don't do like we're not like
fun.
Well, that's what I mean. But we don't say like, oh, well, if we if we do this or that with this decision, then people might do this, and that's illegal, so we shouldn't. Like, don't break the law is the message. It's not.
Well, if you break the law, we'll change. I wanted to ask you that I didn't ask you last time. Would that be on campsites as well?
Right now, I don't know, and the reason I don't know is because the list that was given of examples says this, and this, and it doesn't say campgrounds, but it says any short-term rentals. So if a campground is a long-term rental for the summer, I don't believe so. But if it's like an overnight or a weekend, it may. So that I honestly, I just don't know.
Well, I never even thought of that. That's
man,
it's interesting that
I'm just saying it may. So I don't know. So that's the thing. So right now, like in the list, but like I said, the list was meant for sort of an information thing. It wasn't meant to be the letter of the law. So it was like, we're doing this, and for example, it would cover this. But then they also, like I said, put that caveat in there, and any other short-term rental. And in Norfolk County, or I guess everywhere actually, a short-term rental is defined as 28 consecutive days or less. So if you have a camper that's on, say, the trailer park for the year, and it's not a short-term rental, if you're there all summer with your camper, then that's not a short-term rental. So when you say campgrounds,
Yeah, I get you.
right? So we got to figure all that out. Yeah, and that's the other thing that people don't realize. Maybe some people don't realize is that this is not a done thing. We are still collecting the information, and I think in our previous conversations, I mentioned that there's been some frustration from some of the owners saying, well, you don't even have a plan yet. What are you asking us for feedback? It's because we're trying to bring you in at the ground level without the plan. Because when we have a plan that's half baked, you go, whoa, that's already a done deal. You didn't ask us. Holy Lord. So we can't do both. We can't have you in at the ground level, but then also have a plan that's complete. We got to figure this out as we go. And that's what we're doing. Is we're trying to figure out as we go what, if anything is acceptable, what is acceptable. And if nothing's acceptable, then we don't do it. And that's where
Right.
we're at, is that what can we do here that actually
So what's the stopping
it's people
point?
will support. Sorry, what?
When's the stopping point? When do you just say no? Like, when do you give up on this? How many more people need to say to you no before you
Well,
go,
that's the thing.
okay,
I haven't heard very many no's.
okay? Well, I
That's the
would.
truth. So what I've heard is, and I think maybe, I don't know if I told you this or not, and if I didn't, it wasn't on purpose, but I did write it somewhere, that what we've heard initially was, we heard some no's, but we also heard some no's, but give me some more information. And then we heard some maybes with more information. And since the more information has been coming, I've been here. And I'm not trying to bias this. I'm just telling you the truth. I've heard fewer no's and more no's, but give me some more information. And then the people that have moved into, okay, I'm interested, give me some more information. So it's not that I wouldn't say we've
Okay.
convinced anybody. I will admit there's only been one like emphatic yes. So I'm not trying to oversell this. There's been one emphatic yes. There are some people who were maybe skeptical that the more that they've learned has made them want to learn more, let's say. And that's all I'm trying to say to you, is that it's easy to say no to anything when it's new, because no is always the easiest answer, because you know
Right.
what you have already. And
Hmm.
so it's not that we're trying to tell people that they're wrong or that we're not listening or anything like that. Well, all I'm trying to say to my ward, I'm not even saying this to Norfolk County because I cannot win across the county. I can barely win in Dover and in Ward 6. But what I'm saying to the residents and the owners in my ward is, look, I don't have a feeling on whether or not you do this. It doesn't help me. All I want you to know, or all I want you to do is say, get the information and you're willing to hear the full argument before you decide, in case this can help you. And the initial no, you realize 10 years down the road, damn it, we should have done this 10 years ago. And that's what I'm trying to avoid. So I'm not trying to convince them to say yes. All I'm trying to do is convince them to say, okay, now I fully understand it, and it's still no. I can live with that. Well, I can live with the other two. I'm not going to die if they don't get informed. But you know what I'm saying? Is that I can I put it this way, I can accept an informed no a lot easier than I can accept an uninformed no. And so that's all I'm trying to do. So on that note, to go on and on and on, because I know you're going to cut me off, is that I did go to the Board of Trade meeting this past month. So they always meet the last
Port
Thursday
Dover.
morning of September. Board of Trade, yeah.
Yeah.
And I went and I was their guest speaker, and I didn't sell anybody. I just said, here is the business plan that staff gave to us, to council, to ask us for permission to pursue it. And I explained it to them more. And then I said, and here is a primer that they've written, and I can send all these things to you, and I will, that just explains what it is. And there was only 2 accommodations there, but there was more. No, sorry, there's 3. So 2 accommodations, and I think somebody that owned a rental property. So maybe 2 that own rental property. Doesn't matter. Who cares? There wasn't a huge amount of people that own accommodations, but there was some. Anyway, the sentiment after that was just, okay, yeah, we didn't know all this, and this is important, and whatever. And so what we're going to do now is I am doing an extra meeting in Port Dover on October, oh dear, it's either the 22nd or 23rd, and we were back and forth, and I'm just going to check my messages really quick to get the right date, so people who watch this have the right date.
Yep.
Um,
Appreciate that.
it is October 22nd at Harbor Hideaway at 7:00 p.m. I'm doing an extra meeting for Port Dover accommodations owners to just hear it. And it's not going to be staff that's going to be trying to do the bureaucratic whatever, and they can't answer your questions because they'll get in trouble. And I'm not trying to disparage them, but there's only so much the staff can say and do. And also, staff is supportive of this, so I don't want them to be doing a sales pitch. I'm just going to do the information. You can ask me questions. I will tell you what it is. Staff will be there in case there are other technical questions that I don't know about. Like, I may not know exactly every implementation criteria in the municipal act that allow, you know what I'm saying? But they will. That's what I'm trying to talk about. Like, I understand the concept, but the specific details, I don't want to get hung up on it. Anyways, so the CAO is going, and I don't know what other staff, if any, he's going to bring. I've let the economic development director know that I'm doing it. I told him you don't have to come. You can come. If you do, you're just watching. And so that's what we're doing. But it's just an opportunity for them to just hit the counselor with all
Is
the
this
questions.
is this an open forum where they can share their ideas?
No, absolutely, that's what I'm saying. So I'm going to just say, look, here it is from the council perspective, and I'm going to tell them again. It doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect council. We're not looking for money. Council's not trying to get money out of you. It's not about that. Here's how the money will work. Here's how it could work. Here's how it could benefit you. If you still don't like it, tell me and I'll vote against it. But if you like it, you better decide now, because you might not get another crack at this. I don't know. I'm not trying to like scare them, but I'm just saying I don't know the next time this rolls around, because as you know, once something is a no, it's not like you do it every year. You get a chance at it and then it may fade away. And I can't tell them what the next term of council is going to do, or the one after that, or the one after that. So I don't know if it will come forward again. So if you own accommodations and you want more money for economic development and tourism promotion, or support for those infrastructure upgrades, this is an opportunity. It's not the only one, but it is one. And I don't want you, especially if you're a younger accommodation owner, it's not an age thing, but presumably further away from retirement is what I'm getting at, who you're going to be running your accommodation for the next 20 or 30 or 40 years. You might want this now. And that's all I'm trying to get at, is that they understand fully what this is. It's not the online Facebook misinformation that they see and go, well, I don't want that. That's some bullshit. It's not about that. And it's okay if you still don't want it. Like I said, totally fine. It's fine, but just know what you don't want. That's all I'm saying. Just know what you don't want.
So, all right. I appreciate you guys having a meeting about it. I hope a lot of accommodation folks will go to this and share their opinions, and maybe look for a different formula for this idea. I'm not sold on it.
And fair enough.
For me personally, you've raised a few good points, but I'm just like, yeah, no.
And fair enough. And there's going to be people that don't budge, and that's okay. But I want to say one other thing too, is that with the Board of Trade, I told them, or I sort of did that half ask, half tell. No, but I told them what I wanted to them to do, and I asked them if they would. I didn't say you must. That's all I'm trying to get at. But what I said was, I would like for the Board of Trade to not just send this to members. I would really like for the Board of Trade to make an effort to cold call other cottages, like those 4 or 5 cottages on the lake type places, or people that have beds and breakfasts that you know about, and just make a real effort to put it in the paper, to draw in people who aren't just Board of Trade members who are already receiving the information. What I want is people who aren't necessarily engaged in council, or don't engage with the Board of Trade, or don't even know what the Board of Trade even does, is that I want everybody to have an opportunity to come to this. So it's not just, the same 100 Board of Trade members all the time.
Yeah.
And so, and I guess I'm only mentioning this so that anybody that watches the video understands that this is intended to be a sincere effort to reach out and hear what people want. It's not just about us manufacturing meetings to get there. That's another accusation, right? We just have these meetings to get people to support us and blah, blah. It's not that. If you don't like it, come and tell me. But I don't want you to have a cottage complex or 4 or 5 cottages, and you don't know this is happening, and you didn't know anything about it, and all of a sudden, here's this thing, and then you're playing catch up.
Well, with the survey too, obviously you can share your thoughts on that, correct?
Absolutely, yeah, and
That's
and we may even
get people that maybe can't get out of work that day.
That's it. And and we're doing it at night too, because the Board of Trade's always in the morning, and maybe in the evening this time we can get a new batch of people. I don't know. So we're trying. Like, I am trying my best to change the variables to get as much input as possible, but I can't do it if people don't show up. And so what I will say when people say to me, I didn't know.
How many people were at that first meeting? I'm just curious. That were on there.
With the accommodations one, I 12, maybe 15 max. Like it
Do you know
wasn't.
what the mass is as far as how many are in Holland, Norfolk? Or sorry, in Norfolk?
What do you mean?
Accommodate.
Oh, how many
Well,
total accommodations there are?
yeah, yeah.
I actually don't, because and I don't know that even Norfolk County would know, because right now we don't have a licensing or registry or anything
It's,
like that for
yeah, it's
some of
well,
them.
thank God.
I'm just saying.
But that
So
was my
but
point.
that's
Is
saying
like
we
you
don't
don't
know.
know if you don't know, right? Like I mean, like you're saying, you want them all to come to the table, but if again, it boils down to like what we talked about off air, Moneyball, right? If only 49% or 40% show up and the other 60 don't. So I think it's that educational component again, where we're trying to, I, you are trying to encourage people to get out, and I am to make sure their voices are heard on this. And I think that's the critical component. Like if you have an opinion, share it with Adam. Share it at this meeting, October 22nd, Harbor Hideaway, correct? So
Yeah, and so, well, there's 2 points though. That one is to have your opinion, absolutely. The other point though is that from my perspective, I'm trying to cultivate informed opinions. That's a big difference,
right,
right? And so that's another huge factor. So I'm trying my very best to reach out and to talk to businesses and residents too. If they want to come, they can come. But so I'm saying to you that it's for Port Dover accommodations. That's the focus. That's not to say I don't think I asked the Board of Trade this. Do you mind if other people hear about this and show up? They don't mind, but I will say that I probably won't be dealing with ward specific issues from other wards. So you can come and listen and ask general questions about the how it works. But if somebody in another ward is going to say, well, on my main street, this, and this, and what are you going to do about it? Like, I'm not going to go down the
well,
road
this
of
is about
every,
this. This is about
yeah,
the
like
4%
oh,
accommodation. That's what it
right.
is.
And if other counselors want to do it, bully for them, like they should, or
Yeah.
not. Sorry, they should only do it if they want to. Not, I'm not saying they should do it in general. I'm saying if they want to, please, please do, because we are expecting a good response to this. But or maybe mine will bomb and they'll realize it's not worth doing. I don't know. But I'll tell you, if I have a room full of 50 accommodations owners, that's a good sign that these things are a good idea.
Well, or they want to be heard, which
Well, that's what
would be the
6
counter,
and 1, right?
right? So
If
I
they want to
mean,
be heard, these are a
it's
good
hard
idea.
for folks, and I want them to get out because this is something you and I've talked about this 3 times now, and it
Yeah.
just keeps, it seems to have its own life, and I think that's important that we share that. I'm glad you're doing another meeting. I think that's critical, and we'll see what people think. Got to
Well,
move
it's a
on.
full-time job, Dave, so I got to do these extra things.
That's true. It is a full-time job. Part 3. Folks, get ready. We're going to talk a little bit about Municipal Development Corporation, a little bit about integrity, and Adam and I'll be right back. Thanks. Part 3 today, folks. This is the last part. And Adam, a lot of talk lately, and I don't know how I want to approach this because I do a bunch of different podcasts. And one of the things that keeps sort of circulating Hallam and Norfolk in this roundabout way is and I don't want to get into the Integrity Commissioner's report, but I do
No.
want to understand a bit better about the Integrity Commissioner's position or lack thereof, or
Okay.
how it's seen, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions about it, and I don't really. I'm kind of on the fence, to be honest with you. And some things I'm like, this is bull poop. Just my concern is that we're not dealing with the problems that we need to be fixing.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That are in
Sure.
Holland and Norfolk currently, and I think that this is, how it's like the drama that we don't really need to see. We need to get the problem solved. I guess that's where I'm going with this, and that it just irritates me to no end. But I do need you to educate me and the rest of the public on what an integrity commissioner is supposed to be doing. Are we paying
Okay.
all this
Yeah.
money out? I don't know. Go.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. I'm glad you said that you're not going to ask me about the report, because what I wanted to start this off with is that I would never ever. I'm not going to talk about any other
Right.
municipalities, whether that's
That's
nearby
not
or
what we're
not.
about. This is an
No, and not
educational.
about other governments and not other decisions. So I will talk to you about the Norfolk County Code of Conduct and the Integrity Commissioner's role in
This isn't
upholding
going to
it.
be really dry and boring, is it?
That's I am dry and boring just generally, so maybe, but no, but I will. No, I'm not going to tell you the code. I'm just saying how the integrity commissioner, why it exists and how it applies to the code of conduct is what I will talk about, because we as counselors are subject to that code of conduct, so I can speak to that quite easily and no problem. But and it's not just about not wanting to criticize other governments. It's about it's bad form, I think, to criticize any other group that's making decisions, because I'm not in their position, and all these other things, and blah 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 blah. So,
Can I ask
anyways,
a quick question before you go
sure,
on? So I understand that there's three levels of integrity commissioners. Like there's a federal, there's a provincial, and then there's the municipal. And I believe at the municipal level, anybody can file a complaint.
yeah,
I believe at
yep,
the provincial level, you can only file it against an MPP can only file it against an MPP.
yep,
And I'm not sure the federal level if it's the same as an MP against an MP, because I think they felt at the provincial level, then everybody would be sending stuff in. Is this,
yeah.
am I right on this?
Yeah, I'm not really too sure on the federal part of it too, because federal government, and I guess I should be, just for knowledge sake, and I just have never gone down that road, because federal government really doesn't um, touch up against municipal government as often, so I don't like, but provincial government does all the time. So, anyways, yeah, you're correct on my understanding of that is correct. And yes, anybody, if you are a resident of the county, you can't just from outside the county do that. The only exception would be in a case where the integrity issue affected the other community, maybe like that would, but a resident itself can't just go, oh, I don't like what they're doing in Peel, so I'm gonna from Norfolk and Port Dover, I don't like that
Right.
Peel
Okay.
decision, so I can't, like, you can't do that, because I mean, and imagine you could, all you'd ever have was people just wasting money in other municipalities all day every day, and
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
what we don't want. So, but and that's why it's important, or it was not important, but I hope that people understand that the integrity commissioner is really, really only tied to enforcing the municipality's code of conduct for council. That's the only function they have, right? So it only applies. Oh, sorry, not just council, but that also applies to all of the municipal boards and committees as well. So if we
Who
have sorry,
who makes the code of conduct?
well, it's any other, like any other policy, it ultimately comes to council to
Right.
approve,
So you
right?
guys made
So,
your own code of conduct.
well, yeah, and it's not like we just sit there and, well, no, I don't even know. I don't think that we made this one. We may have updated it a little bit, but it's been in place for many, many years. And so, what it is there are best practices, I wouldn't say that every municipal code of conduct is necessarily exactly the same, but in spirit, they're basically the same, because we all follow the Municipal Act, we all follow other relevant provincial legislation. So, assuming that all councils and all mayors across Ontario have relatively the same job and responsibilities, there are some differences here and there, but overall, the approach to doing those jobs and fulfilling those responsibilities is probably pretty similar. So most codes of conduct are going to be fairly similar. So, anyways, that's how it's all. So it's not like you go rogue and, like, across 444 municipalities or whatever. I think that's what there is. That you have 444 codes of conduct. It's not like that.
So give us some examples of what's on the code of conduct.
Yeah, it's a lot of it is pretty self-explanatory. About how you conduct business at council, so you don't jump up and down, and you don't make accusations about other councillors' integrity. You don't attack the integrity of deputations. You don't huck criticism at people in the general public. You don't abuse staff. Those kinds of things
So
outside of.
a lot of it's common sense.
Right, you'd think so, but there's a reason that it's in there, and it's because it's happened somewhere in Ontario or wherever, so we have to put it in, right? And then outside of council, we still have obligations. So one of those obligations is, once council reaches a decision, you're not supposed to undermine that decision publicly. So you can say, I didn't vote with the majority, and here's what I base my argument on. But you're not supposed to say it would have been better if we had done this, like, because you're not supposed to undermine council, and it's not a freedom of speech thing. It's an anarchy thing. So you can respectfully disagree, but what you can't do is wind up your community to go attack other counselors, and make it becomes an adversarial thing where the decision making process is compromised because you are now attacking because you didn't get your point of view. Like, that's not what it's for. That's what debate's for. You make your case, council votes, That's the decision. And as a part of your oath, you swear to uphold council's decisions. So, in broad strokes. So that's part of it. So that's part of our code of conduct.
Okay, can answer this for me then. So let's say um, I have a question for you, but
Can I just do one more important thing before you do? Because there's one more
sure,
really important
yeah,
piece.
sure.
Is that
I'll write
the
this down.
code of conduct, again, a broad strokes piece, is that the code of conduct also says that you're not allowed to use your position to advantage yourself or others who are close to you or anyone else, really, in any way. So you can't use your inside knowledge of behind closed doors, closed session knowledge. I can't use my position to get my brother a job, like those types of things. Like you can't corrupt council by being on council. And we also can't, though it also, deals with what constitutes a bribe, right?
Yeah,
You can accept gift. Like you used the example of the coffee
right.
before.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, you can accept a coffee from somebody. It's a certain value it's up to, and I'm not even sure what it is because I don't usually, but it wouldn't ever take gifts. But if somebody gives me a Tim Hortons gift card for $20 that for coming to speak, okay, thank you. It's a polite gesture and whatever. But if it was $1,000, no, you can't do that. So there's a limit, right, where you start to accept gifts that are clearly bribes, and you can't do that. So the code of conduct
yeah, but
covers
you
that.
could donate it to charity.
You're not even supposed to, because that donation could also benefit you, right? Because then you get a tax receipt. That's not fair. But also just the public opinion that, oh, Adam got this $1,000 gift and he gave it to the food bank. Well, that I'm
He
benefiting.
didn't, folks. He didn't. We're just
No,
making
no,
this
but
up.
no, yeah. No, I didn't. But that's why they say you can't even do that, because you can't. I can't benefit even by the public relations benefit of that gift. You can't do that. Other things you can't do in terms of just that ethics or whatever. And I'm actually, and I've had to step away from other boards. Is that you can't, even if it's just volunteer, and even if you don't make any money at it, you can't be a member of a board and try to
Yeah,
advance a decision in their favor, even if there's um, no benefit to you whatsoever. There's that perception that, well, maybe there
there
could
is.
be,
Yeah.
and that's it. So anyways, all that stuff that people say is common sense or think would be common sense, and people don't want graft and people don't want all these other things. Yeah, that's the code of conduct that specifically spells out all the things that we are not allowed to do and that we are expected to do in order to maintain the integrity of serving on council. That's it. So the integrity
So
commissioner,
let's give an
sorry,
example. So let's say
okay,
I make an accusation that you broke the code of conduct
sure,
as a resident of Norfolk County.
yep,
Then then that's where I take it the integrity commissioner. I make the complaint to him or her,
hmm
and
hmm
they have to do an investigation. Is that how it works?
no, not necessarily.
Okay,
The first step would be that they review it and see if it even is a code of conduct issue.
right. Okay,
So we have had this term of council. There have been complaints that have come forward that were immediately dismissed by the integrity commissioner because they weren't part of the
there.
code of conduct. So you can't. And I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
If council makes a decision you don't like, you can't just file an integrity commissioner's report because you don't like it and you don't think it was in a good integrity decision. Wrong. It's not the decisions that
Would
we make.
you? No, that's a good question because could you though if you felt information was being withheld?
That you can, or well, no, not necessarily. By withheld by whom is important.
Okay.
So if you feel like the information didn't come forward from staff or whatever, like let's say, for example, I'm not saying staff would ever do that.
Well, a counselor, I would say, because that's obviously the integrity
Not really.
portion of it.
It depends on what you mean by information. Like, we don't have to say every single thing we know about every single issue, especially if it's not relevant. So how would you do that? But if a
I don't know though,
counselor,
because that's confusing a little bit. Because
no,
I'm gonna step back, and not this has anything to do with integrity, but I forgot to ask you this question in the other segment. Was you? I remember we talked about the pier issue. Remember a couple of weeks ago,
yes,
the fences, and you said no, there was no county money. But then all of a sudden, it showed up there
yeah,
was county money. I
that's right.
was like, holy poop! They didn't tell Adam this. Like
They
I
didn't
was
know.
kind of, and I felt for you because you put yourself out there on this.
Well,
You know what I mean? And but I thought
yeah,
that was an example of what when information was from staff, they should. I know it wasn't much, but I mean, $1,500. I think was that what it was roughly.
yeah, that's right.
So if I'm sitting on the pier and I'm an old person in my car and I get to watch the pier every day and I hear all this come out and I'm like, well, to me, $1,500 is a lot of money. You know what I
Sure.
mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
relative to what that position is of the person. But I was like, that to me kind of bummed me out a little bit because I'm like, oh, damn, they didn't even like, I'm not blaming
Yeah.
you. I'm not blaming
No,
them.
no.
But if I was working in your role and they didn't, and that's my town, and all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, we forgot to tell you, or we didn't think it was important, that becomes a bit of an issue for me.
So I will. Okay. So there's so many things to answer there. One, that wouldn't be a complaint about council. That would be a complaint about staff. And there are two
Right.
different codes of conduct.
Yes.
And so the code of conduct for staff is administered ultimately by, senior staff. So that's different. But also in this particular case, I'm not necessarily defending staff because it would have been nice to know, but I'm not saying that staff person even did anything necessarily technically wrong, because they didn't
No.
do anything technically wrong, because they have a budget that they are allowed to use for operations up to a certain amount,
Yep.
and the fence was within that amount, and they're doing it as a partnership to help the harbor authority cover costs and whatever. And so just because, again, because staff makes a decision that some of the people in the public don't like, doesn't make that an integrity issue. It means it's a decision. And so it's not an integrity issue. Now, if
It
staff,
isn't. I agree.
yeah, and so if staff had spent money that was beyond their spending limit, or if staff had given a contract that was beyond the spending limit and didn't get quotes and gave it to somebody close to them, yeah, that's an integrity issue. But just
I
making a
would think
decision people don't like is not an integrity issue.
no, but I would think because of the volatility of when that came out and when it hit social media,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like it became pretty well known pretty quick,
that's right.
but nobody liked it. I would think maybe somebody in that job role at the county should have said to you, hey, by the way, because it was going to follow the trail. You and I have seen it how many times, right?
Yeah,
It's
I
going to
know,
be
I know.
back.
But here's the thing. So one thing is, in my heart, I know that wasn't intentional, and my heart doesn't matter. But what I will say, what does matter, is that part of my integrity commissioner, my a code of conduct that would be enforceable by the integrity commissioner, is for me to go out and rip staff. I can't do that. I can't abuse staff publicly and turn the public against that
Right.
person. So I'm not going to say,
Can you privately?
no, actually, no, I can't, because that's also the integrity commissioner, is that we are not,
Okay.
sorry,
I'm
code of
not
conduct.
necessarily rip. I would suggest if I
No,
was
we
in your
can't.
role, I would go to that person and say, if something like this comes up again, could you just give me a heads up?
Can't really do that. Some of them you can,
That's a
because they,
courtesy. That's not you're not,
I know, but here's the part of it though that's important, is that, again, in the code of conduct, we counselors are specifically not allowed to direct staff and direct their work. So I can ask them questions, but I can't say to them, hey man, give me a heads up next time. Like, I can't do that, because then I'm directing their work. And the policy says they don't have to notify me. So if I start to say, hey man, you need to give me a heads up
okay.
next
So the
time.
policy says they don't have to. All right.
Right. And that's what
All
I'm
right.
saying. So that's the difference. So that's why
And
I'm saying, as much as people don't like what they did or what happened, staff didn't do anything that's punishable. And even if they had, like,
you heard
it's not,
about it though, didn't you?
oh, absolutely. But that's part of,
Right.
unfortunately, that's part of my job, is that I am there to communicate what's going on. And I did the best I could. And then when I got the information and I saw it, I was like, oh my God. So my first thought was, oof, I hope that's not true. Or hope it's not
Yeah.
presented accurately or whatever. And
I
then
hear you.
and then as soon as I called and got the confirmation, I was like, okay. So I can't even say in that moment when it's hitting me, why, why. I can
Yeah.
just say, okay, so can you just fill me in on what it was? So I can ask
Sure.
questions just to get the information, and I can say things like, so I'm gonna have to respond. So what's a good way to respond that doesn't, those kinds of things. So I'm not saying tell me what to say, but I'll propose a couple scenarios to say, is this, anyways, and to work it out. And so, again, I don't want to give people the impression that staff's dictating. They're not.
No.
But when I ask those questions about, if I say this, then what? That's another way to say, here's what I think of what
Nicely.
happened,
Nicely.
in
I
a
understand
in a
that.
way
Yeah. I
that is
totally get that.
right. Not, it's not
No, it's
punitive.
degrading. No,
Right. It's not
it's your
degrading. It's more of
your
like,
the
okay, so
suggestion. You're making a
so
suggestion.
that's right. So when I go back to communicate with my municipality or my ward, these are the things that I need to put in there as details. And they'll say, well, and so when those things come, like I said, they don't tell me what to say, but they remind me of different policy things and they fill me in. So you can have a really good conversation with staff about something that maybe didn't go right for both of you, but you keep it informative, not accusatory.
Yeah.
You keep it. So look, I respect your position and I appreciate the information. You don't literally say this, but the tone is, I respect your position. I understand you didn't have to tell me. I'm not disputing that, but I'm just saying, how can we, make the
Do
community
this.
understand this in a
Okay.
positive way? So you can communicate with them in a nice way, and they still get the message, believe me, but it's not a, you idiot, how dare you? Like, I would never do that. I'm not that
Yeah,
guy, really.
I got you.
Not really, but I'm not. But that's the problem, is that sometimes in the history of the council world or wherever, maybe not our council, but some other council, that happened. And so now we have a code of conduct that says you can't direct staff and you can't abuse staff. And I have no problem with that being in there, because you shouldn't be abusing staff and you shouldn't be abusing your fellow councilors and you shouldn't be abusing residents. And so that's all in there. And so when that happens, to answer your question, somebody can make an integrity commissioner complaint. If it's not a code of conduct issue, the integrity commissioner still gives us a report, but it says, no, this is not the issue. If this resident wants to do this, they can go to council and debate it. They can hire their own lawyer, whatever. But so the integrity commissioner isn't looking for infractions, or he's not on the hunt. He reviews the complaint on its merits. Now, if someone makes a complaint and it is a code of conduct matter, then the integrity commissioner may still not necessarily investigate, because how severe is it where it violates the code of conduct? So if someone says, I bought Adam a coffee and that's corrupt, ha ha ha, we caught him. Okay, yeah, so there is an issue about gifts in the code of conduct, but that doesn't meet the threshold. So he's going to say, yeah, it's not a thing.
Okay.
He only does the investigation when it's apparent that an investigation is warranted based on the severity of the issue, the severity of the violation,
And the
is it in fact related to the code of conduct? And it's not like he's decided it's already a violation. He's saying this is a issue that is legitimate. I better investigate, because he may still find that the counselor didn't do anything, or the board member or the committee member or whatever didn't violate. But we have to, in order to maintain the integrity of council and our ability, in public goes, you have no integrity anyways, you're all crooked, whatever. Yeah, you can say whatever you want, but we still have to be able to show you on paper, well, that's not true. So you can say whatever you like, but here's the evidence that it's not the case. And that's what the integrity commissioner is for.
Wow. There you
Well,
go. You got it. You nailed it.
Well, and that's it. So, I mean, do I love that it's necessary? No. But,
It's a fact.
And that's it. And now the province mandates it, just to make sure that councillors are upholding. And you could look at it one way. You could look at it one way and saying, well, the fact that there's so many complaints means that it's out of control. Or you could look the other way and saying, man, there's a lot of people that are violating their codes of conduct that before weren't getting complaints.
Being held accountable.
Right. And so which one is it? And sometimes integrity commissioner reports, there have been examples where they've gone to a higher court and the judge did say, oh yeah, they've overreached a little bit. And then there are others where they say, no, that's upheld. And so it just depends on how far down the road you want to go. And I mean, the best way to avoid it is to not do the violation, really. And be careful when you speak to people, and and first of all, and also be aware of what the code of conduct is, because if you're saying, well, I didn't know, or I didn't think that applied, well, okay, when we start our term, we get that training and that reminder, and it's online and it's available to everybody. So where does your responsibility begin and end as a counselor? And that's it. So anyways, I don't know if you want to talk about anything more specific than that, but that's generally what it is.
I wanted to do an overview of it so people would understand it better. That's all. And I think you
yeah,
pretty much
I mean, ultimately that, and I'm not necessarily, well, I guess I kind of am, but I'm defending the concept. I'm not defending any particular integrity commissioner. What I think about the concept is this: you as a resident, or anybody as a resident, has to know, in my opinion, you should want to know that all the business that we are doing is above board, and above board financially, but also ethically and interpersonally and all these other things. That there shouldn't be things that are going on that people don't know about and whatever else. And so the code of conduct it just defines the rules of the game in some way. Not that it's a game, but you know what I'm saying. Here are the rules. If you go outside of the rules, here are the penalties, and here are the potential penalties. Your choice whether you go outside the rules or not. And if you go outside the rules and you get a penalty,
so be it.
well, and that's it. And that's it. And so if people want to say, I'm willing to break the rules because of these principles that I have, okay. And if you're willing to break the rules based on principles, then I guess the principles would say the penalty is something that you're willing to assume. You can't go out and say, I'm going to do this on a matter of principle and then say I shouldn't be penalized when I knew it was a rule that I was breaking. Like, I just don't know how that works. It's not, anyways, so that's where I'm at. So
the interpretation of it that's the other part too, is where if you're the integrity commissioner, your interpretation of the situation can be very valuable, or it could, it can lead to different outlooks on that. And I think that's probably where I get a little concerned, but I understand your point overall. And I think I'm still living in, the 1970 something, where I think you would like to think people's integrity is intact and they're going to do the right thing, but isn't always necessarily the case in this day and age.
But there was a different level of integrity then too, I think. Like, sure, I mean, would more people be offended now? I think it was almost expected that if you were in politics in the past, let's say, I don't care what year it was, I'm not trying to impugn anybody, but that maybe your brother got a job. Yeah. Or maybe you moved permits along.
True. That's a good point.
Right? Or maybe you moved a permit further or to the top of the list, or got someone to look the other way on something because it was your cottage or your building or your farm, and that you were able to do that because you're on council. And what I'm saying is the code of conduct says you can't do that. And the integrity commissioner says you did or didn't do that. And based on this, here's the penalty that I recommend, by the way, to council. Ultimately, council decides what the penalty is. Yeah. But they make a recommendation, and they can recommend just an apology. They can recommend a week without pay or a day without pay. They can recommend up to 90 days per infraction without pay. That's their maximum recommendation. Council can still go beyond. So it's just a matter of
below.
Or below. Yeah, I'm just okay, sorry, yes. But what I'm saying though is that, these things, people say, oh, control and you're taking this and you're taking my free speech and whatever. But at the same time, they want councillors who are accountable. What accountable to what? I mean, and that's what it is. So as soon as you, as residents or any residents, demand accountability, we are obligated to provide you with accountability. And this is the model that we have right now.
It's this is our third part on this one. This, it's always intriguing, but I'm looking forward to our next podcast where we can get down to grassroots on problems that you guys are facing, and sure, how we can sort of start solving them. There's so many, water bills, there's, municipal development corporation. There's lots of things I want to go to, but I'm not going to keep you any longer. I know you got a meeting coming up today. So I appreciate you taking the time today, and take care. Have a good week.
Maybe.
And I will argue with you next week. Bye.
Can't wait. See ya.